Welcome to the DEC4 podcast. You can access episodes, companion articles, research notes and links, as well as information about our contributors and supporters at dec4podcast.com. Hope you enjoy the program. And once again, we've linked to this on the website, one of our suggested additional reads. Once again, it doesn't make entirely comfortable reading. Now, JP Richardson's wife, Tsitsi, remarried. She had 4 children with her second husband. And in 2004, they launched legal action against JP Richardson Jr., alleging that, quoting the article here, tricked his ailing mother and swindled his siblings. So in the days after his mother's death, JP Richardson Jr., according to this article, sent a letter instructing a record company to send all of his father's royalties now and forever to me, quote unquote, according to the Beaumont Enterprise. There was apparently a document or a letter signed by his mother signing all of the rights to JP Richardson's music to J. Richardson. The attorney who was representing the 4 children from Tsitsi Richardson's second marriage, said the royalties were worth about $100,000 a year. The Big Bopper wrote dozens of songs, many of which no one has ever recorded but him. If some big star starts singing one of his songs, it could be worth millions. I couldn't find anything or any further notes to say whether or not that was resolved or how that was resolved.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if you call it cynicism or not, but I guess grasping at straws. I mean, JP Richardson, the Big Bopper, I guess $100,000 a year is nothing to sneeze at, but how many people are we having to look after with this? And I mean, his flesh and blood son, surely he should be in charge of any of the finances after his mother dies. And even when his mother is alive, you know, you would think that the two of them would work together on that sort of thing and manage what meager income there would be. Again, $100,000 is not exactly meager, but the 4 kids from her second marriage, I don't know. That's a bit of a tough one. The idea that JP Richardson has this big back catalog of compositions that if anybody gets hold of them, they're going to record all the songs and sell it 1 million copies, and JP Richardson's music's going to go out into the world again. That's a little bit far-fetched for me. I guess you have to get ahead of any of these things happening, because what if that does happen and you weren't on the ball, somebody else is making money off that? And I guess you have to be confident in your old man's ability to write hits, but like that's never going to happen, and that would never happen. So this money thing is always a bit of a sticky wicket. You never know who's telling the truth. Again, like I hinted at with the Valenzuela family, the Richardson family had this one guy who was going to be the income forevermore, even though he was only at it for a couple of years. So people are going to come out of the woodwork, I guess, and want to be looked after. And it's a shame when families splinter over such things. Yeah, I don't know. That's a bit of a tough one. I don't know what else to say about that.
Okay, so I'm just cutting in here with a post-edit and some additional context, because I realised after we'd recorded that there was no mention of the Big Bopper's daughter, Deborah, who was still alive at this point. She passed away in 2006, aged 52. And the wording of the complete news report actually raises more questions, really, than it answers. Now, it appears Deborah did marry, but was living in long-term care and had been suffering from unspecified ill health for a number of years. In details of a separate legal action in 2000 involving the JP Richardson estate and a dairy company over the use of the name Big Bopper, Deborah is listed as part of the Richardson estate and under the care of a guardian. Oh, and by the way, I've been referring to the Big Bopper's son as JP Richardson Jr. and J. Richardson. To avoid any confusion, I'm referring to the same person there. His name was J. Perry Richardson. So, a little more from the press coverage over the royalties litigation, and I really should have brought this into the discussion. Okay, it says, when the Big Bopper died, he left half the royalties from his songs, such as Chantilly Lace and White Lightning. And by the way, White Lightning was actually a #1 country hit for George Jones and was subsequently recorded by Hank Williams Jr., Glenn Campbell, Waylon Jennings, and Shakin' Stevens, amongst others. Half of the royalties were left to Adrienne, 25% to his son, and the other 25% to his daughter. So he'd obviously made these provisions quite close to his departure on the Winter Dance Party tour. When Adrienne Richardson Wenner, her second married name, died in 2004, she left 10% of the royalties to each of the 4 children from her second marriage and 10% to her only son with the Big Bopper. Now, as we learned, J. Richardson sent a letter to the record company to send all of his father's royalties now and forever to him. And to back this up, he apparently had a letter from 1994 signed by Adrienne Richardson Wenner giving all of her rights to JP Richardson Jr., all of her rights. All of her rights doesn't mean all of the rights. So is it just that the article has been written a little ambiguously? Or did J. Richardson ask the record company to forward all of the royalties to him, or just what he considered his mother's share of the royalties? And where, of course, does this leave Deborah? She was obviously in a vulnerable situation, and her share of the royalties must have been very helpful in supporting her care. And looking back to the terms of Adrienne Richardson Wenner's will, she'd left 10% to the 4 children and 10% to JP Richardson Jr. No mention of Deborah, but there was 50% unaccounted for. Or, when we read that article, do we assume that when they are talking about 10%, they are talking about 10% of the entire royalties, which then would obviously add up to Adrienne Richardson Wenner's 50%. And if that is in fact the case, where is Deborah? Really, there are just so many ambiguities in that article that it is impossible to make any kind of judgment, and I'm confusing myself now, which is not difficult. But just looking ahead to 2005, an article on a website called Cron, once again credited to the Beaumont Enterprise. It says, ironically, the Bopper never made much money for himself on his music. When he died, his estate was valued at $11,111.50, about $72,000 in 2004 dollars, but $10,000 was unpaid royalties on Chantilly lace. The article goes on to say, today, 2005, the Bopper's songs earn up to an estimated $100,000 for his heirs, who still haven't settled on how the money should be divided. Okay, so just to conclude our segment on the Richardson family, a website called Steel Guitar Forum reprinted the funeral notice and obituary for Adrienne Richardson Wenner. J. Richardson was quoted as saying, the anniversaries, certain times of the year, every year, were just very, very difficult for her. I don't know what the coroner is going to say. At that time, her cause of death had not been specified, but I know she died of a broken heart, whatever else people tell me. We also learnt that she was a great Cajun cook, very popular and community-minded. J. Richardson said she had a good time, was a very colourful person, but he believed that his father's untimely death had overshadowed everything in her life. As to her attitude to J. Richardson going into show business himself, she was instrumental in my not doing it until I was 37 years old. Mother never wanted me in the business that she felt took Dad from her, but once I did, she embraced it. A friend and neighbour said she loved her kids, loved her grandchildren. She was so down to earth and always told you the truth, one of those types of friends everyone wishes they had. Podcast terms and conditions can be found at our website, DEC4podcast.com. You can contact us there or on our social media. Find us on the major podcasting platforms, and we're also on Substack, Facebook, Tumblr, and Instagram. This has been George Fairbrother. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Steve Collins from the YouTube channel Please Tell Me Where to Go. We have great travel videos and other stuff as well, so go to YouTube. Please tell me where to go. The 2 is the numeral 2, and enjoy a whole bunch of videos.